and welcome this afternoon to the Reset program on our TV.network. This is the Roku channel. We're excited today to welcome to the program our health, wellness, and lifestyle program, Florence Champagne, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Open My Heart Foundation. And before we start our conversation with you, Florence, I just want to just share a little bit about who you are, because you have been working so diligently in this field of heart disease. And, sometimes we start out the year thinking about our resolutions, how we're going to lose weight, how we're going to get a new job, or whatever we aspire to do. We rarely talk about in January heart health because we have all of February, but sometimes it's important to lead out the conversation around something that we're still tackling, and that is cardiovascular disease. But Florence Champagne, as I said, is the chairperson and CEO of her own foundation that she founded, Open My Heart Foundation. Florence, I know that you'll talk more about this. In 2012, you suffered a major heart attack. And as a result, you had to have open heart surgery. Due to being uninsured at the time, she did not relatively know all the diagnostic treatment opportunities, and it was clearly life-threatening, but still needed the treatment as many do who were in her condition and her situation. So, like with many African-American women, she decided to move forward and actually became a survivor, but then took that pain and made it into purpose by founding her own organization. The mission of Open Heart Foundation is to eliminate heart disparities among African-American women and women of color. Welcome to the program, Florence. I'm going to say welcome back. You're almost at the beginning of our New Year's guest. You were here last year, maybe we're talking about heart health, but now we're starting out our first program of the new year with you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me.
Well, of course, because we had such a delightful time over the holiday season doing some very important community service work with your foundation, with the partners that you have as part of your foundation, of one of which I'm a member of that organization. You're a member of the organization, I learned as well. And together we worked really hard to make sure that seniors could have a really wonderful holiday season with food. And that was a wonderful endeavor that the Open Heart My Foundation founded here in the DMV, feeding 230 senior citizens in the DMV area. So thank you for that level of community work. So let's start out the conversation. This is, the health, wellness, and lifestyle, kind of all the trifecta in one when we talk about cardiovascular disease. Let's just start out just to get everyone acclimated into your story. Tell us a little bit about what led you specifically to decide to found the organization Open My Heart Foundation.
Thank you, Linda. Once again, it's an honor and privilege to be here to share my story. And what led me to it as I was recovering, because there was a point in time when I didn't know whether I would make it. And I had to have emergency open heart surgery. And as I was lying up here in my bed recovering, I really prayed about it, because it was a struggle to breathe once again. And I really felt led to share my story. And I always say God gave me purpose through my pain. And my story was not just that I had a heart attack or that I had open heart surgery, but that it was unfair in the way that I was treated, which led to me becoming more of an advocate for heart disease awareness.
That's we've talked on this program, Florence, about health disparities as it relates to just that, accessing services, being able to fund those services, and even having an education and awareness about those services. And part of that disparity or that inequity weaves its way through just about every part of our medical community. And we've talked about that on this program quite a bit because of the nature of what we're talking about, health disparities in various health states as it relates to people of color. Can you describe for us some of what you experienced in that? Because this is such a daunting subject. We want to be able to go into the hospital even as an emergency case. We want to be able to
Yeah.
know that we have quality, top-notch healthcare available to us, and that we don't have the types of issues that particularly African American women are experiencing in not being recognized for their pain, not being recognized for the amount of care that's needed on a daily basis that others may, for whatever reason, receive. Um,
Right.
so, can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
that experience? Because I'm sure you'll connect with many of our listeners and viewers around it so that we can ground this conversation in what do we do going forward in our advocacy.
Sure. I believe as African American women, we endure a lot of pain. And, just going back to our childhood and when we're becoming adolescents and we're starting to get our menstrual cycle, we have pain. And I believe that the pain that we endure, we bear it as if, this will go away. This too will go away. I don't know what this is. A lot of times we don't know what's going on down there, and we just endure pain. We give birth, for goodness sakes. That's a lot of pain. And I really felt the same way, kind of sort of when I was having my heart attack. It was pain over time. It was
Mm,
constant pressing on my chest. It
mhm,
was as if a needle or a sharp knife was being stabbed in my chest. And I just figured, you know what, this will go away. I don't know what's going on.
mhm,
So I would start to breathe a little bit differently because of, it being hard to catch my breath. So I figured it was me, and I would drink more water or what have you. And then I started going to the hospital. One day I was on the floor. A friend of mine was here, and I asked him to take me to the hospital. And I did go. They couldn't find anything. And I should say, when you go to the hospital, they will give you an EKG and the basic test. Nothing showed up on the EKG. So
wow.
I was basically sent home. This went on for almost a year of going back and forth to the hospital with chest pains. I have to say, I didn't have insurance at the time because I was unemployed at the time.
Mhm,
And I did not know that that was a factor in me, in
mhm,
the way that I was treated. But I was told basically, you look fine, you're young, you're okay, and then sent home.
mhm,
And it wasn't until I met a cardiologist, I had to make an appointment with him, and he looked at me, and he was, for the first time, I felt like someone actually looked at me and
mhm,
listen to me about my pain. Because a lot of times when you go to the doctors, they look at their computer or papers, but this doctor, he just looked into my eyes and he listened to
mhm,
me as I described my pain. And he asked me, he said, with all of these emergency room visits that you've had, let me ask you a question. What type of insurance do you have? I said, well, I don't have any. And he said, that's why you haven't been getting the proper diagnostic testing. He
mhm,
said, don't worry, we'll find a way to get you the right testing that you need. And he did. And so when what they did was a cardiac catheterization.
mhm.
That's when they found out that my main artery, the LAD, they call it, was 99.9% blocked. And as they were rushing me to the operating room, they were saying, Miss Champagne, if we don't perform emergency open heart surgery, we're going to lose you. And then when we do perform it, there's a 99.9% that we still may lose you. I
Mhm.
said, the only thing I thought about at that moment was, but I didn't finish my book.
Oh,
I felt like there was something still left here for me to do. And as you know, I'm here today. God spared my life. And I did write that book as I was recovering because I didn't know how much longer I would be here. So yeah, going back and forth to the doctors, I I really felt at one point, I don't want to go back there. They're not going to believe me.
Right.
And one doctor even told me, you know, I'm going to refer you to a counselor, as if the pain was all in my head.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and that really hurt my feelings. And so, I found later that I was not alone, that there's huge disparities in health treatment when it comes to heart disease and being listened to.
That's so shocking to me. First of all, we are glad that you are here because your work has had great meaning into this community of survivors. I know that you do work through Open My Heart Foundation with survivors and with those who are currently patients who are in that kind of void. What do I do? Where do I go? What resources are available? How do I, surmount this remarkable challenge and navigate that medical system that has shown statistically that there are disparities in the treatment. So that's why we are glad that God did spare your life so that your work can continue and you can really use your platform in your national speaking, in your nonprofit, as well as the book. Is Ina's granddaughter? That's the name of your
I,
book, right?
Inez's granddaughter, yes.
Daughter.
Yes.
Yes, and just all the things that you do in the community. One of the things that's really daunting to me is the fact that what's the length of time when you first had symptoms to when you finally decided to go to the hospital? Because that is remarkable in and itself that we as African Americans, as just health consumers, who are our first responder to our health, because we're living in our body. So we have to get to know that body. How do
Right.
we move from I'm feeling something that doesn't feel normal, that seems a little out of place, to I do believe that I need medical treatment and care, and at least to have an evaluation? What was that length of time?
Well, I would say it happened several months. I would feel discomfort. And I felt, let me just talk a little bit about some of the symptoms.
Mhm.
And some of the symptoms may be different for women as opposed to men.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of preface it with the fact that we endure a lot of pain.
Yes.
And so I felt a sensation in my jaw, and it wasn't a pain or anything that I would say, but it just felt really strange, like, right up in my jaw. It just felt really strange. And then I realized that there was something happening with the way I swallowed. Those are kind of vague symptoms, but then I later learned that jaw and neck pain is a symptom of a heart attack because of your arteries that are aligned up here.
Okay.
And then I would start to feel back pain. Another vague symptom to me, not related to anything about the heart, but I later learned that is a symptom of having a heart attack. And for some women, they feel nauseous.
Mhm.
So, when you go to the hospital and you're not exactly sure what's going on, the person that you're being interviewed by or that's doing your workup may or may not be aware of some of the vague symptoms that women have. But it wasn't until I had a heated discussion with my friend at the time
Mhm.
that I found myself going down on the floor, whereas my knees were buckling
Oh,
and
wow.
I couldn't breathe. And that was a very telltale sign that something is wrong. And so I'll talk about stress in a minute, but that was a very telltale sign as I'm having a heated discussion going down on the floor at the same time. And that's when I started holding my chest. I felt like if I hold it, I can talk better, but no words were coming out.
Mm.
So that was a very telltale sign that something is definitely wrong. But I did mouth the words, "Take me to the hospital."
But, oh,
Even with that, I was sent back home. My pressure was unusually high. And, when I say high, normal range is 120 over 80.
Mm-hmm.
However, I may have been up to 160 something, 180 something over two something. That's very high. So over time, your blood pressure being too high, it causes problems, for the blood to flow properly through your body. So I believe I had high blood pressure problems over a long period of time.
You know,
Yes.
you, wow. And I guess I'm just in awe of the fact that they sent you home with those symptoms. And because we know that in the United States, heart disease, cardiovascular diseases, as a group of diseases, affects 5.7 million people in the US and probably more annually. It is the number one killer, and it has been that way for some time now. That you would think that emergency rooms are primed to understand those nuances. It's not an upset stomach. It's not a muscle sprain in your back. It's not, some type of issue with your jaw because you bit down on something really hard and now you have a little sore. It's a combine of all those processes versus having that heavy chest feeling, and therefore, you're not able to breathe. So
Yes.
when you went home, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking? What were you thinking to yourself? Because I'm not sure how individuals self advocate for them at this stage. And that's what we want to teach as well as educate on this program, or inform on this program, how to self advocate for yourself. If your family member is not with you or a friend is not with you, to support you in these moments where you can speak for yourself.
Right. I have to say, when you're sick, you tend to just listen to what they tell you, and you don't really feel as though you're in an advocacy mode at the moment because you're sick and you're just trying to get well. So I really felt like, I went home with my tail between my legs and just, sucked it up because they said this and they said that. So it must be all in my head. I'm going to be okay, type of thing.
Mhm.
It wasn't until I had the open heart surgery that I became an advocate, got in the advocacy role, because I really felt some injustice
Mhm.
at that time, and I felt like I can do something about it. I have to say, I was approached in the hospital by an organization called Women Heart.
Mhm.
Women Heart is a national coalition of women that support women with heart disease. And they approached me and asked me if I'd be interested in being an advocate and to talk about my experience. And so I did. After I got out of the hospital, I thought about that organization and I became a part of it. And I went to, they send you to the Mayo Clinic in, I believe it's Minneapolis,
Mhm.
to receive training on leadership in field of heart disease, support group facilitating, sharing your story, and so forth and so on. So it's a large group throughout the United States of women that support women with heart disease. And I just felt, over the years that Black women, in particular, needed to be addressed as far as the disparities in treatment that we're looked at differently, and it really comes down to insurance.
Yes.
And so over the years, after speaking and having forums and symposiums and things like that with various doctors and hospital administrators, I've also learned that the hospitals, the ER, has to make decisions when you are presented to them. Is this a life-threatening illness right now?
Mhm.
Are they have to make these decisions as far as who they will treat and who they will send home for follow-up. So I was one of the cases that was basically sent home. I'm not dying right now.
Mm.
So you have to be sent home, and you are basically on your own for follow up treatment with a doctor somewhere. So that's the way it is. And but I tell people, when you are going to the hospital with chest pains or even feeling nauseous or uncomfortable, you have to say, I think of having a heart attack. Say the words
Say
heart attack. When you say the words heart attack, there's a whole nother treatment for you. And they look at you more seriously when you believe that you're having a heart attack, because as we know, when you find out there's something wrong with your heart, it's generally too late.
yes,
So one uh, according to the Centers for Disease Control, one out of every four persons die of heart attack every second.
yes,
So, and that's a large statistic. It is the number one leading cause of death in the United States, but it's also the most expensive disease to have.
yes,
So the average open heart surgery ranges anywhere from 35,000 to 200,000. That's for you to pay in out of your pocket in copays, aside from the insurance. So I had to look at all of the factors. I listen to the doctors now doing these treatments, doing these forums and speaking at different places about what they are faced with. And but at the time, you don't know that there's decisions that have to be made as far as who gets treated and who doesn't get treated. And I had
no, go ahead. And you had,
and one of the things that I learned is that I became like a charity case, and which was a good thing because I had to be turned down for uh, the insurance. I had to prove I didn't have enough money, and then going back to the hospital with my son, I learned that there's help. So different charitable organizations give to various hospitals for cases just like mine, for when you cannot afford to pay, because even though now you're well, you still have medical bills. So I'm like receiving, after the surgery, all of these huge medical bills. I'm like, what? 30 something thousand? I can't afford that. What's going to happen? So they do have charitable cases when you go to the hospital. And that is one of the things with the Open My Heart Foundation that we aim to do, is to give back. So in cases where people can't afford treatment, that there we are now giving back. And whether it's like $1,000 or $10,000, we aim to just give back in some way to help that person that can't afford their treatment.
and that, that tag teams into a couple of things. One, the fact that we have to be a community that supports these organizations, because our healthcare system is just exploding with the costs for covering care, and it is not fair. We know that we have a healthcare system pay scheme that has to be reviewed in the United States on a continual basis. We've done that with the CARES Act, and trying to make healthcare affordable. But of course, the copays and the deductibles can be out of reach, as well as the bills that come with it. And then that just adds into the stress, which is another part of the cogwheel that just takes a family and puts them in a medical crisis, not from the actual physical issue, but because of the financial tsunami that comes onto their family. And so, it's so important to think about that as part of all of our responsibilities. We all have to contribute into those systems, whether it's charitable, whether it's through our work, and being able to maintain whatever insurance is, and making it a home priority, a bill priority, if you're fortunate to have it, but also taking care of ourselves so that we can be in a preventative mode. Florence, you said something. We have a couple of minutes before we hit our first half hour, which is crazy that we're already there with this conversation. Amazing for a 1 hour program. It's going by so quickly. You said some things I just want to re-emphasize, that heart disease is the leading cause of death among men and women, and people of most racial and ethnic groups. Now, this is according to the CDC. This is according to the data that's out there. So we're not making this up. One, and you made a very important 1 in 4 deaths. So that's 659,000 people in the United States die from heart disease every single year. That's remarkable. And then if we take it down to kind of that used car salesman, 1 penny at a time, we're talking one person dies every 36 seconds from cardiovascular disease.
Absolutely.
And then you brought something that we all have to understand as we think about our economy, and that is what's the impact on our economy. That's somewhere in the neighborhood. When we look at statistics, and they gather these financial metrics, they're a couple of years back, but this isn't so far back. In 2017, $363 billion each year. That includes the cost of healthcare services, medicines, but most importantly, loss of productivity due to death. So we have to retool our workforce because of perhaps, by and large, preventative deaths or preventable deaths. So it's really critical that we do that. Um, let's talk a little bit when we come back in just a few minutes from the break. I really want to go into Open My Heart Foundation, because you started out by saying that you make available some financial support. And I know that you can't support everybody across the United States because you have to raise that kind of money. We talk about, how do you raise the money? How do you connect with those who reach out to you, and how you work in collaboration with other organizations that are looking at supporting and filling the gap, because that's where we are at the moment. In the meantime, I just want to go into kind of, what's your background? I know that you were in social work at one point in time, because you were such a wonderful, well-rounded, amazing person that I want everyone to get to know Florence.
Okay, so my background is in social work, and that that is the advocacy part of me. Social workers are very resourceful. I'm a graduate of Howard University School of Social Work, and we fight for the underserved, and so that is my background. So I just put on my social work hat, so to speak, and advocated for myself. So realizing that there was this, I don't know, injustice I felt at the time. And then I learned about disparities, health disparities. And I said, oh my goodness, you know what? Somebody has to talk about this. I didn't hear too many people talking about health disparities in heart disease in African American women.
And,
So,
and you know something, I was reading an amazing article in preparation for this discussion, and it talked about disparities in heart failure care for African Americans. And heart failure care almost sounds like, well, if you have heart failure, then you must not be with us. But there is degrees of heart failure that, as you mentioned, 99.9% of your a blockage would be considered a heart failure, I would think. And so it's interesting that it says these differences in how doctors treat heart failure in African Americans. Doctors are less likely to prescribe medications to African American patients than they are to white patients. I have no idea why that would be the case. But these medications include groups like AC inhibitors, diuretic medications, and a drug group called digoxin. So I'm trying to understand why there would be a disparity in the prescription of those drugs if they're designed to support and help reverse the impact and devastation of heart failure and move someone to a better health outcome. I'm just confused by that.
I'm not sure why that is either. I can tell you though that when I was recovering, and again, you don't know anything about, you know, heart disease until you have it.
Mhm.
But I learned that I should have had cardiac rehab.
Mm,
And so I called the hospital. I said, I found out that I should have cardiac rehab. Again, it was the insurance. It's between $8,000 to $10,000, and I didn't have the money to afford to pay for my cardiac rehab care. So, and cardiac rehab, it helps you get back on your feet, so that you can breathe properly. It's over time they do things with you because you just had your chest sawed open.
yes.
you need some rehab. But I was denied that treatment, and it is a life-saving treatment. But again, it was the insurance that was a factor. So as far as who gets what treatment, it comes down to dollars and cents.
Wow. Well, we'll talk more about dollars and cents when we come back from the break. This is Florence Champagne, CEO of Open My Heart Foundation. I'm Linda Dorman, host of the segment Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle on OurTV.network Reset program on Roku. We'll be right back.
Time. It has a different meaning in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It goes backwards, forwards, it stops. St. Croix is rooted in history. So much of it still remains untouched.
I remember running on these streets as a kid. This shop was right down there. It opened the same year I was born. This is where the original Crucian hook was born. It's the symbol of these islands. And I wanted to have my hands in that very same history. I want to be able to pass it down to my family while still putting a new spin on it.
The U.S. Virgin Islands, we have an amazing culture that developed over time from all over the world.
St. John feels so untouched. Being underwater is like another world. There's no worries, there's no stress. I can just escape. This is my happy place. My passion for scuba diving came at just being fascinated with the water and wanting to be a mermaid. And this is the closest thing I can get to achieving mermaid status. Canadians just love being outdoorsy. We live for adventure, so we love anything hiking, being on the water, diving, snorkeling, and St. John has it all.
It's like some spirit is protecting the island and keeping them raw. The Makujumbi watches over the island. From up there, they keep the evil spirits away.
Get down.
The nightlife in St. Thomas is absolutely amazing. There's always something going on. Everyone comes together to dance and catch a vibe. We're always celebrating. We celebrate freedom, culture, the food, the smell, the music. It's always a celebration. The people here are probably the most priceless thing because they keep the culture going. There's so many different influences on these islands. Food from all kinds of countries coming together in new dishes. All of us came from somewhere, but all that we call this home. The VI is a new melting pot. This is where the past and the future comes together.
Welcome back to the Reset program. This is Dorman with a wonderful guest today, Florence Champagne, CEO of Open My Heart Foundation. This is the program Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle, and we're talking about, this is our first program of 2022, and we're talking about how to navigate heart disease and the healthcare system, insurance, and to really understand the resources that are available out here should you be someone found to have a heart attack, a stroke, or other cardiovascular diseases. And to really start the new year with a commitment to heart health lifestyle. Living in a heart health lifestyle will help you. But, you know, we ended the last the first half hour as we go into the second half hour talking about the economics of a heart disease and how to pay for it and what resources may or may not be available, because it is staggering the amount of money that individuals must pay for individual services as it relates to just the hospital stay, the care stay, the insurances, the surgery, and all of the physicians from the cardiologist to the anesthesiologist to the specialist to the post care to the cardiac rehab, because the heart is a muscle like all the other muscles in our body. We have to go through rehab and we really need it. And I just can't fathom how families are able to afford, even with insurance and co-pays and deductibles, these staggering bills. So one of the things that I know that Open My Heart Foundation has been gracious to do is to raise funds and to make some of those funds available in small grants and small support to those who reach out. Can you tell us how you go about raising the funds from Open My Heart Foundation? Because we want everyone to open up their heart and give to the organization, because you are giving to those who are in absolute most need.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. So, one of the ways that we raise our funds is through writing grants and through our fundraisers. For example, we have a fundraiser coming up, and that is called the Red Dress Gala Awards. And at our Red Dress Gala Awards, we honor the heart attack and stroke survivors. Because strokes are closely related. And so we do them both at the same time, both heart and stroke survivors. And one of our honorees receives a monetary award. And this is the person that has had the most debilitating illnesses due to heart disease. And we honor them with an award called the Lilly Daniels Legacy Award. And Lilly Daniels, she has passed on. However, at the time when I was going back and forth trying to figure out how to pay my medical bills, I found out about this organization called the Bread of Life Foundation. It was based out of New Jersey. I'm from Philadelphia, and my brother told me about this organization, and he has passed on since then. I would go to their fundraisers, their banquets, and what they would do was give money to survivors. And that's where I really got the idea of giving back. And here I was, her focus was cancer survivors. So my mother was a cancer survivor, and my mother received a monetary award. And I said, "Oh my God, this is awesome." And when she found out about my condition, she said, "Oh my God, we have a grant that you can apply for to help you with your medical bills." And I applied for it and I did get it. And I said, you know what? In her honor, she lost her battle to cancer. So in her honor, we began to give out monetary awards to survivors. So that's what we do. And through our efforts, every year, the Red Dress Gala Awards, we do a fundraiser. So we hope to raise funds. That's our biggest fundraiser. So we hope to raise funds that way. And we also have donors throughout the year that could also give, and they could give through our website by just pressing the donate button.
Wonderful. Well, give us that website here. We'll share the website a couple of more times, Florence, but in case someone has their pen and paper, can you give us how would someone reach the organization to make that donation to learn more about Open My Heart Foundation?
Sure. It's just called Open My Heart Foundation, all one word, .org.
Okay, awesome.
OpenMyHeartFoundation.org.
Well, it's really important. And, the thought around seeking financial support from charitable organizations to pay your bills, your medical bills, really is not something I think people have top of mind, because we are so prone to try to figure this out on our own, to turn to our families and help try to bring those resources into this situation, but also individual funding pages like GoFundMe. But there are organizations that have, just like Open My Heart Foundation, made it a point to give us financial support to individuals who are suffering from a financial crisis related to medical bills. And I want everyone, if you're in a position to write these down or to ask us the question, if you're out there on social media, we'll put it out there on social media, because this is really critical to get to know some of these organizations, including Open My Heart. And that's Aunt Bertha is a database resource that allows you to then query local area charitable organizations that may also be able to give grants for your health care. The Health Well, which is Health Well, is one word, Health Well, the Health Well Foundation. Their mission is to reduce financial barriers to care for uninsured patients with chronic and life-altering diseases. So heart disease would be one of those, providing financial assistance. The PAN, P-A-N Foundation, and PAN is an acronym for Patient Access Network. This is also to help uninsured or underinsured individuals kind of close that gap, particularly for rare diseases. There may be special complications as it relates to your type of cardiovascular disease that would qualify. The National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, NAFC, also provides support and opportunities to receive medical support free of charge. This is an interesting one, Needy Meds, Needy Meds. Also now a nonprofit that can support those who are in their local community to support with services, wraparound services, because in addition to paying your bills, you need other services. You need transportation, you need special foods, you need different types of medicines. You really need that counseling support, and you really need to be in a position to figure out a stipend, how you're going to continue to take care of yourself if you are the breadwinner or an independent individual relying on your own salary. Yet here are a couple of more to jot down. RX, like the prescription, R small x assist, and RX, again, R capital, small x hope. These are web-based patient assistance resource programs that can support a variety of service needs in the medical field if you're in need. And there are many more. I would suggest that anyone who is in the same position that Florence found herself in, to Google pay my medical bills. And these were a few of 11 lists. There are many other organizations, including Open My Heart Foundation, that gives grants as well as monetary donations and of varying sizes. So these are resources that are exceptional, and we encourage everyone to support them, because this is how we're going to, one day we may be the recipient and we may be in need as well.
Absolutely.
So Florence, tell us a little bit about the actual programs of Open My Heart Foundation. What types of things would we be supporting with a financial donation? And by the way, everyone, I have my ticket to the gala. I'm really excited. I've attended the gala twice. Once in 2020, right before COVID hit, at the end of February 2020. It was absolutely wonderful. And now it's virtual. So everyone who is listening and viewing can actually participate as well. And we'll give you a way to buy your ticket in just a minute. But let's talk about the programs of Open My Heart Foundation.
Sure, absolutely. So, what we do is hold monthly support groups for either patients or those that are at risk. And when we say at risk, we mean with high blood pressure, diabetes, having some other type of illness that could also contribute to heart disease. So, we hold support group meetings once a month. Due to COVID, we have not been meeting in person, but we've been holding them online. So just check out our website for the latest updates. So we've had issues and such as COVID and heart disease.
Yes.
And when we do have these support group meetings, we have experts in their fields. We have doctors, we have cardiologists, we have pharmacists. We have those that are able to explain in detail what you're going through, some of the things, some of the symptoms, some of the remedies, some things that you can do to advocate for yourself. So we are very blessed and honored to have people in the leading leaders in the field once a month. We do have our Red Dress Gala Awards. We've been having health fairs where you can come and get free testing, blood pressure screenings. We partnered with several different organizations. One of them was UCAP, United Communities Against Poverty, and did COVID testing there. And we recently had our food drive for seniors. And so we're trying to do things in the community that would help level the playing field, so to speak, with people that are either ill or at risk or seniors that need some help.
We can't understate the importance of free monthly support meetings for both those individuals who are at high risk as well as family members. Are family members who are part of the caregiving community, are they also invited to the monthly meetings?
Absolutely. We encourage family members as well. When you were talking about some of the resources available, unfortunately, when you are sick, you're not even able to think straight, so to speak.
Right.
And you're just thinking about getting well. What is wrong with me? I really encourage family members, and if you don't have a family member nearby, a close friend, that be by your side, reach out to others so that they can understand or hear what's going on with you. I When I started going to the hospital or to the doctors for follow-up appointments after surgery, I always took a friend because my frame of mind was
Yes.
not like where I could receive information because I'm just trying to breathe again. So my friend, she really became like almost like the caregiver for me. She would come over here, she would help me bathe, get dressed. It's a lot that goes on when you have this heart disease and open heart surgery. So I encourage people to take another ear with them. As
Mhm.
you were talking about the resources, you may or may not be able to think of these resources at the time that you need it.
Right.
If there's others that are listening right now, keep all of these things in mind because you never know when something may happen to a loved one and you're there, you're on the spot, and you could say, you know what, I've heard this before,
Mhm.
and I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z. And it's because like people like you and people like me, when we speak out and then people hear it. I've had people call me from the hospitals and
Mm.
say, you know what, I heard you speak before, and that's why I'm here. And it may be this and it may be that. And I'm like, good, good. I'm so glad you're there. Make sure you tell the doctor to check this and to check that. You know what I mean? It's because they heard it somewhere before and they're trying to do the right thing. But if we don't speak out about it,
You'll never know.
they may you they may never know. I've gotten emails and inquiries from people from other countries that say, you know what, I've seen on your website where you help people with heart disease. Can you help me get my father open heart surgery because we can't afford it? Or can you help my baby get open heart surgery because we can't afford it? So they speak out, and that's, I believe, what I was called to do, is to speak out against these inequities in treatment. And there is help available. If I have to go online and look up how to treat someone in the Philippines, I will do that. I mean, but there is help out there available, but it always pays to have a caregiver or a friend or a relative or someone else know what's going on as well.
And I'm glad that you said two things. One is that heart disease isn't just relegated to those who are older. It can affect children. It can affect, newborns all the way up if there are congenital heart defects of some sort.
Yes.
Obviously, as we get older and our diet contributes, our lifestyle contributes, just our lack of awareness contributes to living a lifestyle that predisposes us to experience heart disease. That's something that we can get our hands and wrap around. And there's been just a plethora of information out there to help us live that healthy heart lifestyle. And we're not talking about you're going to wind up as the next, gym rat or someone who's going to be in front and doing the cardiovascular, you're not going to become the yoga instructor or, someone in that field to train the certified trainer. But living your own heart lifestyle will help you address something that we also need to think about when we think about heart disease, and that is the full metabolic syndrome. And that is the full cardiovascular system and things that contribute to it, like, cholesterol, high cholesterol levels, just obesity, insulin resistant issues, hypertension, which is that high blood pressure, and obviously things that contribute like lack of sleep, lack of water, lack of nutrient dense foods, processed fatty foods that then clog up, even working on making sure that our dental health is well attended to so that we reduce the plaque that could break off and travel within our body. So it is a real comprehensive thought process around how do we take good care of ourselves. And taking good care of ourselves does not have to be a labor. It can really just become the routine habit and lifestyle that we've been talking about that reduces our risk for heart disease. May not necessarily go away if we have genetic predisposition, someone in our families had a heart attack or stroke, or otherwise. So that was a really important point in thinking about it from birth to, maturity, that heart disease can affect anyone.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And when you talk about some of the things that can contribute to heart disease, also stress is a big factor.
Yes.
So yes, we got to make sure that we reduce our level of stress.
Well, during COVID, I wondered, we've had several programs where we've talked about the isolation, the mental health around the impact of COVID and the underlying stress that it has caused because we can't get to the doctors, because we're shut in, because we're trying to keep ourselves safe from this virus that has mutated itself into many different forms and fashions, including a new one that's been found in France just recently. And now we have the increase of due to Omicron in particularly in the where we're from, the DMV area, the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Maryland, and we see this across the country with the levels of caseloads and the hospitals are being overloaded. All of that, just in that one health issue, contributes to the stress, and that then meets what we put onto our system, and that stress level then impacts us in our heart and our circular systems. So could you give us any recommendations on, when you've talked to the women whom you've honored, and each of them have heartfelt stories. I've been so honored to be a part of listening in the audience and listening at the Red Heart Gala. Can you share with us any advice that you or others who have experienced a pretty significant heart disease issue, what do you employ in terms of woosah and keeping yourself in stress management, keeping things reasonably stress-free, which is seemingly impossible. We can do some things to minimize.
Yes, yes. So some of the things when I think about reducing stress, I think about, finding your happy place or that happy spot. What brings you joy? Whether it's lighting a candle, it could be as simple as that, lighting a candle, or I paint. So that is a form of therapy for me. So some people do like planting things, so whatever it is that brings you joy, find a way to have that balance in your life where you're not always constantly spinning your wheels, so to
Mhm,
speak. And I find that people in the DMV are very, very busy. And that's the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia uh, are extremely busy. And you could get in a cycle of working, working, working so hard that it takes its toll on you and causes the stress. I've been sent to the hospital from work. One of the jobs that I've had, you try to work, work, work so hard, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're like on your desk with your head down because you're in pain. It takes its toll on you physically.
mhm,
So I would just say, we have to step back, take a breath and do something different. If you're constantly spinning your wheels, if you're in a toxic situation, um, I run from toxic now. I
mhm.
just go in the opposite direction. If it's something that, even on the television, the news can be stressful,
Yes.
watching one bad thing after another. And I was at home with my mother one day, and all of this stuff was happening. The news was on. I said, Mom, please, I have to turn this off right now because it was starting to affect my spirit. It was really getting next to me, and I can feel my blood pressure rising. So I'd say avoid stress at any cost. When you know that something is affecting you, you when you're in tune with your body, you can kind of feel it when something is stressful. Going for walks is so relaxing. Just put on some sneakers and just walk around the block,
Mhm.
so that's keeping that stress level down and
Well,
being more in tune with yourself.
and being in tune, and there's evidence-based science that says all of the above that you've named: walking, candles, creating a holistic environment for yourself that relaxes you, baths, really pushing back from the screens and all the imagery that just creates that underlying stress and combining stress, coming to your happy place. All of those seem simple, but they require an intention. So we hope that individuals put the intention behind that activity so that they can reduce their stress. We have one more minute, and I want to make sure that we get a couple of things done. The website is openmyheartfoundation.org. And we encourage our listeners and our viewers to contribute because we know that those funds that go into that organization are going to support not only its local programs, but also to support those who have medical bills and needs as well, to the best of the organization's ability, along with others. We also want to make sure that you understand that smoking is a number one factor in cardiovascular disease. Physical activity needs to be incorporated, stress management, and really truly sleep, getting your blood pressure under control, and the things necessary, and nutrition and dealing with that obesity are critical. And I'll leave the final word. We have a few seconds before we close out the program, and this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Florence. Tell us anything else, any final words of wisdom?
Gosh, the only final word I have is to love yourself, love your heart, and nobody's going to care for anyone as much as you care for yourself.
That is a wonderful statement. So we thank you, Florence Champagne, CEO of Open My Heart Foundation, for sharing your story, for being on the program, and for being our first guest of 2022, the new year. And we thank you for all who is listening and viewing in RTV.network on Roku. Have a great afternoon and stay tuned for the upcoming program.
Thank